Mr. Cooper, today the downloadable gun promoter Defense Distributed planned to post online its blueprints for making deadly, undetectable, and untraceable plastic weapons using three-dimensional or 3D printers. If not for the efforts of 8 attorneys general, including Maura Healey, the attorney general from my own state of Massachusetts, anyone, including criminals and terrorists, would now be able to download a computer file and print a semi-automatic weapon. Thankfully, yesterday, a federal judge granted the attorney's general request for a temporary restraining order to stop the online publication of blueprints for 3D printed guns, which was only possible because the Trump administration sanctioned it. Mr. Cooper, if you are confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs, you would be in charge of the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls, which is at the center of this national crisis. In 2013, the Trade Controls Directorate concluded that posting these blueprints online and making them available worldwide violated federal export controls. But in a head-spinning reversal, now the office has rubber-stamped the Trump administration's plan to allow the blueprints online. Mr. Cooper, I'd like to know whether you recognize the consequences of this decision. Last year, ISIS encouraged recruits in the United States to exploit American gun laws by buying firearms online and at gun shows to avoid a background check. Do you agree that ISIS recruits would probably avoid buying guns online or at gun shows if they could print them at home instead?
Senator, thank you for that question. I understand the concerns noted by you as well as the President. From my personal experience in non-permissive environments, I certainly have been in the space and in the place of, on the receiving end of proliferation of weapons, especially small arms. So from a personal experience, the proliferation of small arms is of concern. Having not been in the department privy to the details on the legal aspect of the directorate determination, my understanding—
I'm asking you a different question. The question is, let's just say that because of the Trump administration's decision to allow downloadable guns, ISIS begins to encourage radicalized recruits to carry out lone wolf attacks with 3D printed AR-15s. Wouldn't that pose a threat to public safety if they could do that?
Any tactic, technique, or procedure that could be applicable to any ideologue or jihadist extremist is a threat. That could be a truck driven down the street. That could be any weapon of choice. So any tactic, technique, or procedure could be a threat as applied in the hands of a lone wolf attacker, Senator.
Now, what about school children? In the wake of tragedies at Parkland and Sandy Hook, there has been much talk about hardening our schools and installing metal detectors at building entrances. A plastic gun will not set off any metal detector. Would you agree that undetectable guns imperil the lives of the children of our country?
Any unregulated access to weapons or proliferation of weapons is a risk and a challenge to security.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And I went to sleep last night hoping that President Trump would exercise his power to just stop the implementation of this new policy, which Secretary Pompeo and Secretary Sessions signed off on. But they did not. It took a federal judge in Washington State in order to accomplish that goal. It has national security and international security implications. Now, I appreciate the fact that you are not the person who made this terrible policy, but you are asking us to confirm you to a position where you will be defending the indefensible. Whether ISIS be here or ISIS be overseas, this new era has now opened. And from my perspective, until the President agrees to reverse this policy and prohibit the online publication of these dangerous blueprints to make plastic guns that can kill people here and overseas that are undetectable and are not subject to licensing, that this is a decision the President should make. You are going to be given the job of implementing this existing terrible policy. Until that policy changes, I intend on placing a hold on your nomination. I expect the President to change that policy and to give you the tools which you need to protect against the proliferation of weapons now being downloaded across this planet. And I appreciate the position which you're in, but you now represent a very flawed, indefensible policy which President Trump is allowing to be put on the books. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.